By 1943, Germany was no longer trying to win the war by numbers. It was trying to win it by ideas. Jet aircraft, guided weapons, rockets, and submarines were rushed into development.
It had limitations. An improved version with a pressurized cockpit was developed, for example, the 263, which was, I believe,
in the belief that technology could compensate for collapsing resources and shrinking time. Some of these weapons were genuinely ahead of anything fielded elsewhere. Others were impressive experiments that never stood a real chance of altering the battlefield. This documentary examines the most advanced and secret weapons Nazi Germany developed during the Second World War, not as legends, but as working machines, and explains why even remarkable innovation could not change the war's outcome. By 1943, German weapons development shifted toward guided systems rather than conventional firepower. Engineers believed precision could achieve what mass bombardment no longer could. This focus led to some of the most advanced missile and rocket technologies of the war. V-2 rocket, A-4 ballistic missile. The V-2 was the world's first operational ballistic missile, powered by a liquid fuel rocket engine and guided by onboard systems rather than human control. It traveled faster than sound and could not be intercepted, marking a decisive technological leap. However, its immense cost and limited accuracy meant it functioned more as a demonstration of future warfare than a weapon capable of influencing battlefield outcomes. V-1 flying bomb. The V-1 introduced the concept of an unmanned cruise missile using a simple pulse jet engine to deliver explosives over long distances. It could be produced in large numbers and required minimal pilot training. While vulnerable to interception, the V-1 established the foundation for post-war long-range missile design. Fritz X FX-1400 guided bomb. The Fritz X was the first operational precision-guided bomb. Controlled by radio after release, it allowed German aircraft to strike heavily armored ships with accuracy previously impossible. Its success demonstrated that guidance could defeat armor more effectively than sheer explosive power. HS-293 anti-ship missile. The HS-293 combined a glide bomb with rocket assistance, allowing attacks from outside concentrated naval defenses. Although countermeasures reduced its effectiveness later in the war, it proved that standoff missile attacks were viable. X-7 Rotkepchen anti-tank missile. The X-7 was a wire-guided anti-tank missile developed to counter increasingly heavy Allied armor. Tested late in the war, it introduced control concepts that would later become standard in Cold War anti-tank weapons. Though never deployed in combat, it represented a decisive shift toward guided ground weapons. As missile technology matured, German engineers pushed aviation into an entirely new era of speed and propulsion. As guided weapons pushed strike range forward, German engineers also sought to overcome Allied air power by redefining aircraft speed and propulsion. Messerschmitt Me-262. The Me-262 was the world's first operational jet fighter. Its twin turbojet engines gave it a speed advantage that rendered most Allied piston aircraft ineffective. Technically, it was a decisive leap forward. Operationally, fuel shortages, limited pilot training, and late deployment prevented it from altering air superiority. Arado AR-234. The AR-234 became the first jet-powered reconnaissance and bomber aircraft to see service. Its speed allowed it to penetrate defended airspace with minimal risk, making interception extremely difficult. Though produced in small numbers, it demonstrated how jet propulsion could fundamentally change aerial reconnaissance. Heinkel He-162 Volksjäger. The He-162 was conceived as an emergency fighter that could be built quickly using non-strategic materials. While fast, its rushed design led to reliability problems and dangerous handling characteristics. It reflected industrial desperation rather than sustainable innovation. Beichenbey 349 Natter. The Natter was a vertically launched, rocket-powered interceptor designed to attack bomber formations. Intended to function more like a manned missile than an aircraft, it reached the testing stage but never achieved operational readiness before the war ended. Walter HWK Rocket Propulsion Systems. Walter rocket engines powered several experimental German aircraft, offering extreme climb rates and acceleration. Their fuel consumption and short endurance limited practical use, but they demonstrated the potential of rocket-assisted flight decades before it became common in aerospace research. As speed and propulsion limits were pushed, some German designers began abandoning conventional aircraft layouts entirely in search of aerodynamic advantage. Horton Ho 229 Flying Wing. The Ho 229 was a jet-powered flying wing that eliminated the traditional fuselage and tail. This design reduced drag and improved efficiency at high speed. Its shape also produced a lower radar signature, an unintended but significant effect. Only prototypes were completed, but post-war testing confirmed its advanced aerodynamic qualities. Blohm & Voss BV 238. The BV 238 was the largest flying boat ever built. Designed for long-range transport and maritime operations, it combined enormous size with advanced structural engineering. Although only one prototype flew before being destroyed, it demonstrated Germany's ability to design aircraft at a scale unmatched during the war. Blohm & Voss P194 Asymmetric Fighter. The P194 was an unconventional asymmetric fighter design, intended to reduce drag while concentrating armament. Though it never progressed beyond design studies, it reflected a willingness to challenge traditional symmetry in aircraft design. Similar concepts were later explored in post-war aviation research. As aircraft design advanced, German innovation reached its most practical success beneath the surface, where technology mattered more than numbers. Type 21 Electro-Submarine. The Type 21 was the first submarine designed to operate primarily underwater rather than on the surface. Streamlined hull design, high-capacity batteries, and a snorkel system allowed it to remain submerged for extended periods. It represented a complete break from earlier submarine doctrine and became the template for post-war submarine fleets worldwide. Type 23 Coastal Electro-Submarine. The Type 23 applied the same underwater-focused design principles on a smaller scale. Optimized for coastal operations, it was fast, quiet, and difficult to detect. Although deployed too late to influence the war, it demonstrated that advanced submarine design did not require large displacement. G7ES Zaunkönig Acoustic Homing Torpedo. The Zaunkönig was one of the first operational acoustic homing torpedoes. Designed to track the noise of enemy ship propellers, it significantly increased the threat to Allied escorts. While countermeasures reduced its effectiveness, it forced immediate changes in naval tactics. FA-330 Backstelze Submarine Autogyro. The FA-330 was a towed autogyro deployed from submarines to extend visual reconnaissance range. Carried in sections and assembled at sea, it allowed U-boat commanders to spot targets beyond the horizon. Though vulnerable and limited in use, it illustrated Germany's effort to extend situational awareness underwater. As attention shifted from machines of range and speed, German engineers also pursued technologies intended to give individual soldiers decisive advantages on the battlefield. Sturmgewehr 44 STG-44. The STG-44 was the world's first true assault rifle, combining automatic fire with an intermediate cartridge, suitable for typical combat distances. It gave infantry greater firepower and control than bolt-action rifles while remaining more manageable than submachine guns. Although introduced late and in limited numbers, its design directly influenced nearly every post-war infantry rifle. Infrared Night Fighting Equipment FG-1250 Sperber. Infrared night vision systems were developed to allow German forces to fight after dark. Mounted on Panther tanks and supported by infrared searchlights, the FG-1250 system enabled limited nighttime movement and engagement. While cumbersome and restricted by range, it represented one of the earliest attempts at battlefield night vision. Remote-controlled demolition vehicles, Goliath, Borgward 4. Germany deployed small remote-controlled vehicles to deliver explosives against fortified positions and armored targets. Operated by cable or radio, these systems reduced risk to crews but suffered from slow speed and vulnerability. Despite limitations, they marked an early step toward unmanned ground warfare. As the war situation deteriorated, German development increasingly split between practical innovation and extreme engineering ambition. V3 Hochdruck Pump Supergun. The V3 was a multi-charge, long-range artillery weapon designed to bombard distant targets continuously. Instead of a single propellant charge, it used a series of secondary charges along the barrel to accelerate the projectile. Technically innovative, it proved vulnerable to air attack and offered limited military value before being neutralized. Schwerer Gustav Dora Railway Gun. These were the largest artillery pieces ever built. Designed to destroy heavily fortified targets, they required massive logistical support and fixed rail infrastructure. While capable of extraordinary firepower, their deployment was slow and predictable, making them impractical in a rapidly changing war environment. Landkreutzer P 1000 Ratti Design Study. The Rata was a conceptual super-heavy armored vehicle intended to mount naval-scale guns on land. Never built, it reflected a belief that scale alone could overcome battlefield challenges. In reality, such a machine would have been immobile, vulnerable, and unsustainable. Windkanone Vortex Weapon. The Windkanone attempted to use pressure waves to damage aircraft or structures. While the physics were real, the weapon lacked sufficient power to be effective. It remains an example of experimentation driven by desperation rather than practicality. As these weapons show, innovation alone could not compensate for collapsing strategy, resources, and time. Many of Germany's most advanced systems arrived too late, in numbers too small, or without the industrial support required to sustain them. Some influenced post-war technology profoundly, while others revealed the limits of engineering when separated from logistics and doctrine. Together, they demonstrate that technological sophistication does not guarantee victory when production, training, and strategy are already lost.
Could be devastating, but the percentage of successful missions was always low. After the war, Allied forces captured numerous specimens in good condition. Their analysis aroused academic interest, although
this channel examines military equipment from a technical and historical perspective. Related material is available elsewhere on the channel. Ultimately, these weapons did not change the outcome of the war, but they did shape the future of warfare. Their legacy would be realized not in 1945, but in the decades that followed. You can continue with a related documentary using the selection on screen.